and start. Hi everybody, Yumi here. I'm going to start here today with the first of the series of anatomy study. So in this series I'll basically be going through certain parts of the body and learning them with you, or rather learning and teaching you as I go. So right here I have a book that has, I think it was my auntie's at some point or my grandpa's, and it has very nice detailed and in-depth diagrams of human anatomy from the bones to the muscle tissue, and some very nicely rendered drawing pieces, as you can quite tell. And also right there you can see that there's a bit of the information, and there's an entire paragraph and stuff. I'll write down the link, what it is. Okay, so right here I am basically going through the process of looking at my hand and referencing it to the book. It's a bit out of frame here, but I'm basically drawing how I would typically start off with drawing a hand. So I would typically draw basically kind of like a weird bended out rectangle, if that's something to say. And then I would kind of like find the lines and like draw the lines out, and I'd know there'd be that arch on the top of the hands when drawing the hand normally. But I don't have any like understanding, like even while referencing my hand while drawing this piece, I still realized that like there's a lot of issues. Like I did the entire thumb wrong, so I went and referenced my hand and said, okay, well it's supposed to go out more, so I did that. And as you can see as it goes on, I keep going back and referencing my hand because it's quite obvious there's certain things that I just never noticed before, and hands tend to be a big problem with me lately. Well, not even just lately, in general, because I never properly studied the hands. But this episode here of Learning with Me is basically me going through the process of wanting to kind of figure out, what I'm doing wrong. So after doing that, I went ahead and decided to start drawings from life studies. So as you can see on the left hand side, I'd position my hand in a specific way, and I'd lightly sketch it out, and then I'd shade and render it a tiny bit better. And like obviously it's not going to look perfect, it's not going to look precise or to the point, but that's not really the idea. The idea is to get the gist of it, and kind of like go from there, basically. So yeah, I guess one of the main issues that I had when doing this is that there's a lot of fold in the human hand, and a lot of spots you don't expect shadows, they're shadows. And I don't know if it's like this for all hands, because I haven't done studies on other people's hands yet, but for my hand especially, like I noticed like little quirks about my hand. Like I noticed the way that it dents in, or the way that it wrinkles this way, or how the line at the pinky constantly is going towards the outer palm. It's the weirdest thing. Okay, if you can see on the right hand side, I actually cut it out, but I had a process where I went through and kind of like guesstimated where like the bones were using reference from the book. And then I also went through and kind of like quickly sketched through what I like assumed where the muscles would be positioned. At a later date, I do want to go through and actually, properly study the anatomy of the bones and the muscles, but those would probably be separate videos entirely. So on the left hand side, you can see I've progressed quite quickly through another sketch using a live reference for my hand. You can see the angular pieces towards the knuckles, and how we draw in the palm tends to be more circular, like how you draw it if the fist was closed. But we draw that all the time, even when the hand's at a resting position, when they're supposed to be just line shadows. I don't know why I ever thought hands were drawn the other way. Okay, moving along. Sorry, it's a bit fast-paced. First time doing a dub over. Be kind to me. So I decided that I'd go through and do a few thumb studies. And you'll see as we go on, I also did my pointer finger, but it's because the thumb and the pointer finger tend to be the most used, especially when I'm drawing stuff, at least as far as I've realized. And I know that they're more detailed than how I draw them, because we all tend to draw fingers and hands as like just meat too, basically. But you can clearly see right here, just basing on like real life from my hand, all of it's the same. But you can see how my thumb, in the references that I'm drawing in from the actual video, you can see I have angular ditches. I have spots where like the folds of the skin push into each other, and the shadow underneath the nail bed. Like all of that is things that should be taken into account. I don't really get a chance to like paint many hands or color many hands, but if I did, that's where the lighting and shading, that's where like I should be applying detail. So yeah. To continue, I really want this series to basically be about learning. So the original series that I'm working on right now, which is this one, it's going to be consisting of all human anatomy. Maybe I'll do a separate one on animals or a separate one on like oceans. But I also want to do ones with like learning watercolor and learning, to do different mediums, different styles, different theories, different practices. The idea is that I want to expand what I do, so that when I get to the point of wanting to decide what I want to continue working on, or when I get to the point that I'm saying, okay, I know I like this more than this, or I need more practice in another thing, I can then repeat an episode or do a second episode, or part B to an episode to expand on it. Like the hands, I do want to do another future episode on the bones and one on the muscles. And ideally I'd be doing that for all the body parts, including like the head, the eyes. Like I want to understand all of the human anatomy, so that at some point when I go and I put it all together, I want to be able to draw the human without a reference, but just to understand. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain, I guess, right now, especially since I'm kind of running out of breath from talking too much. Oh my gosh, this is all one take, people. Okay, so as you can see, I've moved on to the pointer finger, and I started noticing certain things, especially because I had a direct light. You can see because the shadow's pretty harsh. I need to get better lighting set up, but it is what it is. I noticed certain things like how even the smallest bit of shading around the finger, I think I also noticed this in the thumb, but the smallest bit of shading around the finger adds that depth, adds that little ease. You can kind of almost see the 3D figure. I also don't know if this is another common trait among fingers and hands, but I noticed that my pointer finger especially has this weird, like, on the top knuckle, it like points in. It's the weirdest thing. I'll have to like look at other people's hands and to understand them. But the general idea is that the hands that I'm going to be basing off of are going to be my hands, because I can have live reference from them. I would definitely recommend to try this. It was only about like an hour, 2 hours around max to do this practice, and it was just a few basic sketches, just trying to understand the angle and the lighting and the way that certain parts like stick out or stick in. And if you're having trouble with a single area, I say definitely take the time to do this. Like, it's gonna help a lot. I haven't even done a lot in this series, and I already feel like I understand hands, and that's just because I did this little bit of progress. Okay, I also tried the position of hand or finger from different angles. So as you can see, I was like, okay, well, I can do more of the finger pointing up, but really I want to do some of the finger as a hook, pointer finger specifically, because you can see the ditches, you can see the nudges, and you can see the way that I don't want to say fat, it's excess skin really, but the way that the skin bunches underneath when your curls in, I want to learn what that part is. I'll have to learn and study this. Maybe you guys can learn with me, and then I'll be smarter by the end of it. But yeah, you can also see in this video that my nails are not very long, and that's because they recently just like broke down. I'm also self-teaching myself guitar and ukulele, so they're just getting wrecked all the time. Okay. So I think I'm about to do an overview. Yes. Okay. So to overview again, I think what I'm really noticing from the hands, especially, is the knuckle part, the line part, and the way that it's not just a curve; it's angular. Knuckles are angular, and that's the easiest way for me to describe it. The thumb, like, it has, at least mine, has notches around the, like, just past the first knuckle, just past the first knuckle. I think it's because the bone is wider there at that joint, for me at least. I don't know if it's like that for everybody. I'm gonna repeat that again because I don't. You have to look at your own thumb and let me know how that goes. Okay, so you see me playing around a little bit trying to figure out what I want to do next, and I decided I wanted to make this an overview video. So I decided, okay, well then I'll do a study of the knuckles because I know I have issues with that. After doing the first few sketches, I had realized, oh wow, that's not how knuckles are supposed to look like. Let me, do another study. So here you can see me like going through and do that. I actually noticed as I went further along in the sketching that I slowly started to loosen up a tiny bit. I think it was, sorry about that, I think it was closer to like when I started doing the finger stage where I wanted more depth in the piece that I started turning the brush to its side, not brush, pencil to its side, and consistently trying to make the light, like, they're barely noticeable if you don't really look at them. But when you do look at them, especially in a harsh light, you can clearly see that, like, the way that the skin is laid over the hand isn't just flat, or it isn't just like tubes there. And even the smallest line or the smallest detail would easily, like, it would easily, rectify the situation that's happening with most hand issues. As you can see here, I need to turn my phone off when I record stuff, because somebody's stupid, not me. I don't know what you're talking about. Man, I thought I'd be really good at this, but rambling is really hard. I probably should try and not do these this way and instead do live voiceovers and limit myself to a specific amount of time. Okay, so after doing the knuckles study, I had decided I think the next best thing to do would be to go through a palm study. I had a feeling that going through and, like, basically working, I basically thought that if I did the knuckles, why wouldn't I study the palm? Obviously, everybody's lines are going to be different. There's going to be different creases, different wrinkles. But referencing my own hand, I'm able to see the basic lines, at least the bigger ones. I also want you to notice the fact that at the creases up by where the fingers meet the main palm of the hand, the lines tend to, like, flow out. They flow out. So from the middle finger, the left goes left, the right goes right. In the little ditches of the skin, that's one thing that I noticed that I hadn't noticed before. I was just doing standard lines, which, now that I think about it, kind of, take away from the fact that the palm isn't a flat object towards the top where the fingers attach. It's just as curved as the actual finger, like, outer line is, like how I drew in the original sketch I did to show you how I typically used to draw hands. Ideally, I'd like to bring in life study work that I'm doing here into the pieces that I do, because it would just show more detail and more understanding of pieces as I go in, and I'd really like that to be a thing that I do. Okay, so yeah, you can clearly see that I also overdrew the extension area in that thumb, but you know, that's perfectly fine. And you can see where I found more dark shadows, and yeah, I guess I'm gonna say, you know, thanks for watching. Hopefully you guys don't hopefully you guys don't think like this is a weird thing, but I don't know. Maybe I need to just figure out a better process for doing it. I fully enjoyed the process of making and learning those, so hopefully you guys will stick along as I like figure out how to do this stuff and, you know, get better. As I get better at this.